Your future, you, as a man in America, not a black man, how is your future somehow restricted by racism?
My natural hair is seemed as unprofessional when I go into an office or workplace. When I walk around in certain places, people just assume, like I've said earlier, the dirty looks. When people think you are automatically the worst of the worst solely because
we don't think that.
You've interrupted me like 10 times.
The thing that you're experiencing is what every other man, every other person experiences. You just don't like fair treatment.
I'm here to ask the age-old question, DEI.
Okay, great.
Yeah, give me your perspective on DEI, and because based on what I heard earlier, I feel like you don't think I belong here.
Oh, really? Why?
How I am a black man, and because of DEI, I'm not qualified enough to be here. Yes, I am.
Okay, great, then you belong.
But why do I have to prove that to you?
You don't. You brought it up, I didn't.
Okay, but can you explain to me your position on DEI?
Yes, people should not be in positions just because of the color of their skin. Hard stop.
Okay, but do you feel like I'm here because
I'm not feeling anything towards you, actually. Okay, I'm not prejudicing you, I'm not stereotyping you. I'm saying that it's a material.
I'm not saying you are. I'm not.
So here's where this debate is going. This debate is about DEI and the claim that America is inherently racist. And this young man is in college. I was also in college. I just graduated with a master's degree in electrical engineering. And here's some advice I would give you. You have to prove that you belong anywhere, no matter who you are or where you are. You have to prove that you belong. This is why if you apply for a job, they're going to interview you first. They're probably going to interview you multiple times. I don't care where you're applying. If you're applying to McDonald's, they're going to interview you. Just for them, because you have to prove that you're capable enough. When you're applying to a college, they're going to look at your transcript, your GPA. You have to prove that you belong. And it's no different than in this setting. You have to prove that you belong. Everywhere you go, you have to prove that you belong there. Everywhere, no matter who you are. So yes, you have to prove you belong. If you're black, white, Asian, Hispanic, it don't matter. That's just how life is. But let's continue.
I'm saying you are.
No, you are. You said, I don't feel comfortable being here. You started with...
I didn't say I wasn't comfortable being here. I said I feel like you made it to where I got here through DEI.
So let's examine that. What have I said that makes you feel that way?
When you mentioned how DEI is only just putting people of color and marginalized groups in spaces, even if they're not so
correct.
Qualified.
That's exactly what DEI does.
But that's not all that it does. You're categorizing it as something it isn't.
No, that's exactly that is the charter mission.
That's not all.
Okay,
that it does.
so diversity, equity. So equity is outcome based. Okay. Is about making people who are of different skin colors have the same outcome, regardless whether or not they are qualified. The best example we have of this is the Students for Fair Admission Harvard Supreme Court case, where black students, they could have a SAT score 300 points lesser than the Asian equivalent and still get into Harvard. That is DEI in practice. I believe when you're hiring for an organization or for a company or for whatever you are doing, you should prioritize merit and character, and race should mean nothing. We should build around things that matter and not things that don't matter.
Okay, but you have to also take into the fact that black people have only been able to completely legally be able to make profit for themselves for around 60 years. And this is since segregation ended in 1965 and the Equal Rights Act in 1965. So what you're talking, there's not.
How did that? So let's talk about you. How did that impact you? How did something that happened 60 years ago impact your life?
It impacts me all the time.
How?
What do you? Okay.
You're at Texas A&M. You're doing great.
Okay. Yes. Sure. Yeah.
So aren't you a living example that all that's a bunch of nonsense and you could just act good and behave well and succeed?
But there's also living examples of the exact opposite. If you look in the impoverished neighborhoods in certain parts of Chicago or St. Louis, there's black communities being thrown aside because they're not getting education.
Thrown aside? Okay,
yes,
so
aside.
I think we can get somewhere. Why have the black community gotten poorer since the passage of the Civil Rights Act? Tell me that.
Because of the way the culture has been perpetuated through the years.
Hold on. Think about it. So they were richer when we were segregated and more racist. America's become less racist.
What about Tulsa?
Yeah, no one's going to defend what happened in Tulsa again. But let's talk.
But
we're talking about a lot of different
an
cities. We're talking about
example
Chicago, Tulsa. But let's again. This is a very important point. Why is it that Black America has gotten richer on average, poorer on average, since America passed all these anti-racist laws?
I can't answer them.
Okay, yeah. So do you think the fact that 70% of Black youth don't have a dad around is probably pretty important?
That's because of the culture. What I mentioned
So
earlier. That's because of the
respectfully
culture that's
allow me to interject. How does the white culture impact the fact whether or not a Black dad stays around when he impregnates a
I'm
woman?
not saying it's the white culture.
What is it?
The culture that has been perpetuated through the 200 years of slavery, the 100 years of segregation, and Jim Crow laws.
The marriage, so I got to interject again, I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt too much. But in 1960, before the Civil Rights Act, 20% of Black youth had a dad around. Now it's, 20% were single fathers, 80% had a dad around. It's been inverted. So we actually have seen Black dads run away from their kids the last 60 years. Why is that?
Because of the raised incarceration rates, because of the perpetuated culture.
So how does one go to jail?
That's obvious. I'm not answering that question.
Yeah, so maybe it's because they committed crimes.
Okay, but
What Charlie Kirk is getting at is that the biggest issues in the Black community are because of the Black community. And the reason why he's highlighting this is because it goes completely ignored in all of these discussions. This young man is moving on the premise that America is racist and that racism is the reason why the Black community cannot get ahead. And the example he used is 60 years ago, Black people weren't even allowed to make money for themselves. They had to work for, I'm assuming, white people in order to make any type of profit. That's the example he used. And Charlie Kirk is now using examples of the Black community has not seen a growth in economic resources since the civil rights movement. We're actually going down. Our marriage rates are going down. All these things are going down. The reason why that's an important topic and it's an important talking point is because it outlines several things. The first thing it outlines is that racism, the existence of racist laws prior to the civil rights movement, do not have a linear correlation with success in the Black community, because even today, when it's the least racist America's ever been, we aren't seeing a surplus of success. We're actually seeing a decline in success. And another thing is pointing out is that these movements that go against America being fair and that highlight America being racist never even talk about Black culture. They just ignore it. They ignore that our success isn't actually due to racism, but our lack of success is possibly due to ourselves. He just ignores it. It just blames everything on white communities. And he's making fair points. Let me know what you guys think.
When you're forced it's not just this is old, this is in the past, this doesn't affect you anymore.
Okay, so let's take a different group. How did the Holocaust impact Jews? They're doing pretty well.
Well, because they got reparations, we didn't.
How? What reparations did the Jews
Through
get?
acknowledgement, through money, through
We acknowledge slavery happened.
Okay, but you're sitting here and acting like it plays no role.
No,
now.
but to your argument, the Holocaust was 80 years ago. Half of all the Jews on the planet were killed. Everything they earned was taken. Jews are doing great. They're the wealthiest subgroup, racial group or ethnic group in America. If all of a sudden something that happened 80 years ago impacts your material prosperity, how did Jews defy the curve? How did poor Asians do so well? Why is it that Asians are now the wealthiest minority in America, many of whom came with no money in the 1950s or 60s?
Because of the culture and opportunities that were provided to them.
But you're not hearing me out. Black Americans have had the same opportunities. However,
people still look at us like criminals every day.
Hold on, but I don't look at you like a criminal.
I'm not saying you do. I'm saying some people do.
But I mean, do you want me to be brutally honest with you, or do you want me to be politically correct?
Brutally honest with you.
Okay. Do Black people commit more crimes than white people? It's not even close.
Okay. But you have to take into account the culture that has been perpetuated.
Okay, got it. So we can agree on this. Do you mean internal Black culture?
It's not. It's deeper than that.
Do you think, let's take time out. Do you think the average rap artist that a Black kid in the hood is listening to is glorifying marriage and family and saving your money?
that's what sells because it's a culture thing. It's not it's just within the black community.
I agree.
People
No,
listen to it.
but hold on.
Everyone listens to it. It's not
No,
just isolated.
it's bad for everyone who listens to it. The point being is that black youth, as they are being raised, their role models are largely not glorifying staying with one woman, getting married, going to church. And if you're wrong, show me the black role models that are doing that. There might be a couple I could think of, maybe. But if it's about culture, you're right. The internal black culture has collapsed the last 60 years. We're no longer elevating the family. We're no longer elevating staying with the person that you're with. So our contention here as conservatives is that the systemic racism stuff is a bunch of rubbish. Instead, it's systemic bad choices.
That's facts. He's spitting facts. He's spitting facts. And yes, everyone does listen to rap music. Everyone obviously listens to rap music or has their favorite negative thing they like to listen to. But the fact of the matter is this. There aren't many super positive, successful role models in our community relative to other communities. That's not something that we emphasize. We don't emphasize even going into careers that are extremely financially stable. We don't emphasize it in our culture. And that's not a knock on the black culture. I'm just stating a fact. It's just true. So you can't, for example, let's look at my field. I'm an electrical engineer. I have a master's degree in it. Very hard thing to do. There aren't many black people in this field. It's just not. We just don't choose to go into this field at the same clip and rate as other races. As you all know, it's probably one of the higher paying fields or majors or whatever that you can get into. And I didn't choose it for the money, but that's just a thing. Look at medicine. There aren't many black people going into medicine relative to other races. We just don't go into them. That's not something that we emphasize. There's no famous black person saying, oh, just save all your money, do this, relative to the amount of people who are saying the opposite. Buy the chains, buy the earrings, buy the clothes, buy the cars. It's just not. And that's just what it is. But you can't on one hand recognize that this is the case and then on the other hand say, we're not achieving what we should financially. That's not fair. That's not fair to other races. That's not fair to ourselves. That's not fair to reality. That's not how it works. You have to live by the sword and you have to die by the sword. It is what it is.
Is it real?
Of course not. What can I do that you can't do? Name it.
Okay.
No, seriously. What can I do that you can't do?
Fallacy. That's a slippery slope.
No, it's not.
I don't know why.
Very simple. No, because back in 1940, you would have been able to answer that question. Well, Charlie, there's a bathroom over there that I can't go to. There's a major league team.
I can't walk into the grocery store and get the same looks that you do. I walked into Brookshire Brothers a couple weeks ago and I was looked at.
That's an insanely hyper paranoid way of living life. But that's not evidence, right?
It's a real example.
By the way, if I walk into a black neighborhood, I get bad looks too. Okay, so I don't know what the contention is.
Because of the way you treat our culture and the way you perpetuate.
Oh, wait, hold on. The way we treat your culture, we have gone to such great calisthenics and ridiculous gymnastics to prove that we're not racist. In fact, it's the worst thing that you could be called in America. We had, during George Floyd 2020, we had hundreds of millions of dollars given to Black Lives Matter. I don't know where that money went. Did it improve material worth of black America? So, I mean, and we actually do know where it went, actually. And so, but going back to your main contention, when you practice DEI, because that was your main point, right? You are rewarding bad culture. You even acknowledge it. You are saying that someone should be there based on the color of their skin. We say skin color doesn't matter. If you want that position, work harder, study harder, and then you might be able to get that position.
When we're forced into underfunded communities where schools are based off of property value, we can't.
Well, actually, school choice is now the law of the land here in Texas, so that's not correct. Secondly,
do you just expect a single-parent home to pick up and move into some rich neighborhood?
Well, again, so let's go back to why are they the single-parent home?
Because the hundreds of years.
Do you believe in the maxim or the belief that you should take responsibility for your decisions?
It's not just one person's decisions. It's so much deeper than that.
See,
Why are you trying to?
That's where you and I have a different belief. You believe in this.
It's not. It's a fact.
No, it's a belief. Again, you have to tell me then, why do Jews do so well? Holocaust didn't impact their material worth. How did Asians do so well? And by the way, even more so, why are Hispanics getting so much wealthier? If we were so racist, why are Hispanics all of a sudden gaining income the last 20 years? There's something.
It's a difference in culture. I don't know why y'all are clapping.
But
it's a difference in culture. The way that each culture is treated is so vastly different in America.
But again, you have to tell me, other than bad looks at the grocery store, how else is your future, you as a man in America, not a black man, how is your future somehow restricted by racism?
My natural hair is seemed as unprofessional when I go into an office or workplace. When I walk around in certain places, people just assume, like I've said earlier, the dirty looks. When people think you are automatically the worst of the worst solely because of...
We don't think that.
You've interrupted me like 10 times.
Bro, here's the fact. I'm going to be real with you. The thing that you're experiencing is what every other man, every other person experiences. You just don't like fair treatment. Yes, if you're trying to land a freaking job at Goldman Sachs, they're going to have hair that they seem as that makes you unqualified. And that doesn't go for just black people. That goes for everybody. If you're trying to land a job, a high profile job, and you dress a type of way, they're not going to hire you. They want you to wear a suit and a tie every day. That goes for every place. That's just how the world works. There are rules. And it's not just rules for black people. There are rules for people in general. And the problem that you have is that in your voice or in the way you're looking at it is that black culture to you is not fully accepted everywhere you go. And you think it should be. Let me tell you this. No culture is accepted everywhere you go. No culture at any job is 100% accepted. I don't care. If you're a white man and you walk into an interview with your sleeves cut off, with tattoos all across your arm, with a leather vest on and a guitar on your back because you're representing the rock culture and whiteness, you will not get a job. I'm sorry. It will not happen. It just won't happen. That goes for every culture. The problem with you is that you don't want to assimilate into a job because you think it goes against your blackness. Whereas other races, they're like, if the job says I need to cut my hair, if the job says I need to cut my beard, I'm going to cut it. Did you know on the New York Yankees, they weren't allowed to have any facial hair? White, black, they weren't allowed to have it. They were probably allowed to have a mustache. Was that racist? They have black players. Was that racist? No, that's their culture. I don't care if they don't care. You need to cut it. In the military, you need to cut your facial hair. You can't have super long hair as a man in the military. You need to cut it. Is that racist? No, it's the culture. And some jobs have cultures. Some jobs have dress codes. Some jobs have ways that they prefer people to talk. That's just how the world works. And the fact that you're complaining about this as if this is actually going to change anything, it's not going to help you. It's not. You're entering into their world. That's just how the world works. I'm sorry. But let's continue.
You think you know what white people think, and you don't.
I don't know what white people think.
Then why do you keep on saying you know what white people think?
I've seen it. I'm not
you've
saying
seen our thoughts?
I've seen what people have done to me and people who look like me around the world and around in America.
How? But again, you are, let's just make an example. You are here in the wealthiest country ever.
Yes.
At an amazing university with all the opportunity imaginable in front of you. And all you want to do is look backwards at everything that prevented you when you are a glaring example that there is no systemic racism and you can actually achieve your wildest dreams.
Whoa, I never said that. Hey, I'm not the only black person who exists out there. There's so many people who this culture is affecting to this day.
Do you know black Americans are the richest black people on earth?
What statistic
Africa.
is that? Okay, I need you to pull that up like right now.
You can. Black Americans
No,
per capita on average.
Can you pull that up?
I'm hosting an event right now. I don't know what to tell you, but
Well, I'm participating.
Anyone can fact check me on this. So you cannot find a black majority country or any country where black people have significant representation where they are as wealthy, because even the poorest people in America are in the top 5%, the top 2% of wealth around the world. And so my whole belief is stop acting like you're a victim and start making better choices.
Not acting like a victim, bro.
Respect.
This is not a victim mentality.
No, it fundamentally is, because white people are not out to get you. There's nothing. There is nothing holding black people back. Let me say that again. There is nothing holding black people back. In fact, the opposite. You can get into colleges with lower test scores.
But
you could say things that white people can't say and not be fired for it. Black people are wildly disrepresentation.
Well, people say that to me all the time, and they just walk around like it doesn't mean anything around here.
Say what? Say the what?
The N-word. I'm not going to say it on this public platform, but people say it to me all the time.
Derogatorily.
Yes.
No, I think you're lying.
Why would I be lying about
So you're trying to tell me at this campus, did you report it to student services?
I'm not. I have too much on my plate to worry about this.
So you're going to say at this campus, you're going to indict the moral character of Texas A&M.
I'm not indicting the moral character of Texas
you are.
A&M. I'm
indicting
the moral character of one person or a few people.
Oh, well, now it's one. So you heard it all the time, and now it's one. Got it. So
it's not okay. You're taking me out of context. This is the point: is that
I don't believe you, because now you resort back to a race hoax to make it seem as if the white kids on this campus are like racist and terrible.
White kids.
Oh, so was it a black guy that said it to you?
I'm not.
It matters a lot, because this is how lies are able to grow. Jussie Smollett, we see this. You have to challenge them head on.
Do you think I'm lying when I say that people say the N-word around here? And just
if I think a white person comes up to you derogatorily and says, "Shut up, N-word," I'm not saying they said it. I said, are they saying it derogatorily?
But that doesn't mean it's word for word like that.
But okay, so then it's not an insult then. So then don't bring it up as if it's evidence of racism.
Because you brought the N-word up first. I didn't.
No, I didn't.
No. You specifically said, name me an instance of the N-word.
No, I said black people can say things that white people can't say. Of course that's true.
But that's automatically implying that one word.
It's more than that. But let me just kind of build this out further.
What is it then?
There's a lot of things black people can say.
Explain it to me.
You want me to give you more examples of things? Yes. Black people are allowed to talk about black culture in a way that white culture cannot. For example, black people can go up and say that there's a baby mama problem in black America, and white people are not allowed to say that. Oh, I just did. So what are you gonna do? Cancel me? Black people are allowed to say.
I'm a grown man. I got way too much to worry about.
Black people are allowed to say that there is a systemic fraud issue within the PP loan application in black America. Black people are much easier to be able to say that black individuals, despite being 13% of the American population, commit 55% of the murders. If most white people say that at a job, they would get fired for being a racist. I don't care, because I say whatever I want. So black individuals have much more intellectual public freedom than white people do. If a white person were to come up and say, black America really needs to get its act together and stop sleeping around all the time, and it needs to actually have monopoly.
Why would you?
Because it's true. Because
why would you just walk up to someone and talk and attack their culture from the outside?
Well, hold on. Hold on. Let's look at the evidence. You said to myself, there's all these people suffering in Chicago. There's all these people that are terrible. I'm telling you why. It's because there's been bad decisions that have been institutionalized. Let me finish. And rap artists and athletes and people at the top level of black society that refuse to ever challenge the core rot in black America, which is that they are allowing degeneracy and hedonism to eat the...
I think a better example would be, because he brought up the issues in the black community, such as the baby mother issue, and a black person is allowed to talk about this issue when a white person isn't. The first thing I would say is, who's not allowing you to talk about this? Maybe cancel culture. But another thing is, a better example would be talking about issues in the white community. Like, a black person is allowed to talk about issues in the black community, and a white person isn't allowed to talk about issues in the white community. That would be a better example. Nonetheless, his point still stands. We have to kind of do better in our issues. And when you talk about black issues and then you immediately point to racism, it negates our literal biggest issues. And I've been talking about this for a while now. I've been talking about this for a minute. How every time you have someone fighting for black issues, they never talk about the main black issues. They never talk about the murder rates in inner black cities. They never talk about it. And I'm not saying this to attack anybody. I'm saying this because these are things that are really destroying the black community, and we just ignore it. We always point fingers to white people or other races, and it just makes no sense to me. If we really wanted to solve our biggest issues, we wouldn't even be focused on the white community. I'm not gonna lie. That's just what it is. Because they aren't our biggest issues. We are our biggest issues. We are our biggest harm to ourselves. We do it to ourselves, and then we pretend like we don't. It really blows my mind. But even in my life, all the struggles I've faced, all the things I've had to deal with, the biggest worries I've had in my life, none of them are linked back to white people. And I think that's just a normal thing. Like, if you're watching this and you're not black, think of the biggest struggles you've had in your life. The biggest issues that you've had, they're probably just due to your circumstances. They're not due to another race holding you back. That's just life. Like, you're trying to get a job. You're trying to get enough money to feed your family. You're trying to educate yourself, build a life for yourself, go through trials and tribulations, learn more about yourself. That's not linked inherently to another race. That's you versus you. But when we have these discussions, we pretend like that's not the case. We pretend like there's an invisible white man holding us back. Come on, man. It's literally just not true. But let's continue.
Soul of what once was a beautiful black culture, and instead they go around saying it's the boogeyman of racism, the white man is out to get you, and the result is black America is doing worse than it was in the 1960s. That is the contention, period.
It's not just that. It's a culture. It's so much deeper than the present day we are in. I don't know why you're pretending like it just doesn't matter.
What doesn't matter? You mean things that happen? Again, I've been through this multiple times. Let me just ask you.
But you're not listening to understand. No, you're listening to reply.
No, I'm doing both actually. And so, but let me just ask one final question, right? Mm-hmm. Which is that you have your entire future ahead of you. Mm-hmm. When you are hired for a job, would you rather be hired because of your race or because of how qualified you are?
It doesn't boil down to just that.
That's what DEI is, man.
No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's
it is
not.
Definitionally the hiring of people.
They're not just going to immediately see. You
get extra points if you're black with DEI. That's how it works. Racial quotas elevate people based on the color of their skin.
So do you think I got extra points to come here?
I don't know. You said you were qualified, but affirmative action was institutionalized in Harvard and in Texas and a lot of other places. We know this. So I again, TU, we don't like them, right? So, but again, I just want to I want to just repeat this point. Where can I go to work that you can?
It's not just that.
Exactly. There is nothing that is preventing black people from prospering. Nothing. The only thing is that you guys have been hypnotized to be victims of your own mind, to think as if there's a white person out to get you. I walk in the grocery store, they look at me differently. All that stuff is complete rubbish. The thing that is preventing
real life experiences. You're just denying my experience I just shared to you in front of all these people.
Yes, if you think that, okay, let me just be very clear.
I know.
America has come really far if your best example of racism is getting bad looks in a grocery store. We have made incredible racial moral progress. That's only my experience.
There are so many other people
out there. I'm happy to hear every example that they have. It boils down to this. We are not just a racist country, we are the least racist country ever to exist. We go out of our way not to be called the R word, to demonstrate that we aren't racist, to show to people that I have compassion for others and that I want to try to help people of different skin color. But at its fundamental core, I have to go back to this. I don't actually think skin color matters that much. I don't. I want a country that aims towards MLK's dream of one based on content of character and one on competency. I think the hyper-racial obsession of this country is really bad. It's really bad for everybody involved, including black America. And I would just ask you, what would you do to improve the material well-being of black America? What is your solution?
Education.
Okay, we've spent trillions of dollars on education.
It's not
trillions.
You need to fundamentally change the system of education because there's not enough funding. Teachers are not paid enough anywhere. Let's be honest. We need to seriously fix our education, especially when public school education comes from property taxes. When you're in a low-income neighborhood, you're not going to get high-income teachers.
If you had to choose more money for education or more dads for black kids, what would you say?
That goes hand in hand. Education goes into
I agree.
family
That's
planning.
why if we get more dads into homes, it starts solving the problem.
No, education is what solves the problem.
Well, hold on, but again, if you're just educating and there's not a dad at home reinforcing it, we've seen this play out. We see this in Chicago. In Baltimore, we've spent hundreds of billions of dollars in Baltimore, Chicago, Detroit. We have entire classes of kids that can't read at grade level. We have incredible examples of this, and it goes back to this. If you want to have a privileged life in America, very simple. Start acting a certain way.
What do you mean act a certain way?
Get married to one person and stay married to that person, and don't abandon them, of which 75% of black men do.
So, okay, we have 2 black men right here. By that statistics, one of us is not going to get married to one woman. So,
okay, I hope you guys defy the.
Yes, you're actually right. Yeah, Charlie Kirk is right. Why are you getting defensive? He's telling the truth. There is an active issue right now in black marriages. Our marriage rates are declining. And yes, statistically, one of you will not get married to one woman and have a family. Yes. It's actually like 1.5 of you. But yes, he's telling the truth. But rather than you saying, you're right, thank you, you're literally getting defensive when he's being honest. Why does this hurt your feelings? It's true. And you know it's true. I would ask him. I would literally just ask you, was your father in your life? I would ask you, was your father in both of y'all lives? Did both of you grow up in a 2-parent household? Oh, my father. Because statistically speaking, one of you didn't. One of you didn't grow up in the household. And that's a problem. That should not be the case. That should not be the case, man. I have family. I have friends who've never met their father. My grandfather was, neither of my grandfathers raised my parents. Neither of them. This is a problem. This is a problem, bro. Like, and the fact that we're still having these debates, you're getting defensive, is a part of the problem. You can't even recognize it because the only thing you see is a conservative white man telling you something's wrong with your culture. And you know what's crazy? 30, 40 years ago, Charlie Kirk, what he's saying right now would probably be an extremely liberal thing to say. Extremely following MLK's dream. Imagine he said this in the 1970s. They would look at him like he's crazy. They would look at him like he's crazy. He would be a liberal, a crazy liberal. But here we are, fast forward to 2025. What he's saying is like the super conservative, as if he's wrong. It's sad. But let me know what you guys think. This is just kind of sad to me. My name is LFR Jojo, and I'll see you on the next one. Peace.